So these days it changed a lot. So I'll tell you guys about my favorite day.
Back.
So this is a holiday. And I think
really
I've
important.
told you guys before, your father-in-law does all the kitchen work at Chuseok. Wow, Luna, that's amazing. So he's reversing the gender roles. So,
the reason why
because I'm from Ireland, I don't know if you guys are familiar or if you have heard of St. Patrick's Day. So St. Patrick's Day, the nickname is St. Paddy's Day, and that is my favorite holiday. So this is St. Patrick's Day. This is it in Ireland. This is it in Chicago, because in Chicago, a lot of Irish people also live there. So they dye the river green every year. So St. Patrick's Day is on the 17th of March. St. Patrick is the person who brought Christianity, the religion, to Ireland. And we also believe that he is the reason we have no snakes in Ireland. So he scared all the snakes away and told them to leave Ireland. So I don't know if that is true or not, but I love St. Patrick's Day because I guess for me it's like a very traditional and national day for my country. And it's amazing because we just get a holiday from work or from university, and we go to pubs and drink beer and dress in green. So it's just such an amazing day.
What about now? Okay guys, so it looks like what happened was I was actually playing Professor Kiva's YouTube class in the background. That is my bad. So now you're saying you can barely hear me. My voice is very small. That is not good. All right. So let me see this. Is it better now? Thank God. Thank God. What can I say? I was worried there for a second. I almost had to stop the class and redo this later. It's better to get it, Anyway, speaking of today's class, this is the last class of the semester, so I really hope there's no problems and we can just proceed smoothly, because I don't want you guys to have that memory. The last class, okay. So it's, look, great. It's great. We have so many people here today. Good to have you. Yeah, oh my goodness. There are so many of you commenting today. This is really nice. Okay. Okay, so without further ado, I think we've had enough delays. So I'm going to just start here. Ask Branden the most ethical diet. All right, today's schedule, we're going to talk about first, animal rights and diet, 2, our post-pandemic plans. What are we going to do in the future? So hopefully these topics will be interesting for you. Some pre-reading questions. What are some reasons to become a vegetarian? Now, as some of you, maybe all of you may know, vegetarian means someone who abstains from animal meat. Okay, so there are actually different types of vegetarians. Some vegetarians can eat dairy products like eggs and milk. Vegans don't eat any animal products. So there's a difference between vegan and vegetarian. Okay. Next, what meal would you miss if you became a vegetarian? So there are so many to choose from. A lot of delicious meals. Pizza, steak, salmon, you name it. There's so many things we would miss. Third question, have you ever considered becoming a vegetarian? Okay. Fourth, are there any proven benefits of eating meat? So we hear a lot of people saying, oh, meat is bad for us, it causes cancer, blah, blah, blah. But are there any good things about eating meat? Humans have actually eaten meat for forever, right? So for thousands of years. So there must be something to it. It can't be all bad, right? So what do you think? To help you guys out, I'm going to copy and paste the questions that I just asked you into the chat box. So let's get started with this. Okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks. I do hope it will be the last and perhaps the most memorable, but hopefully not for bad reasons. Okay. So, guys, just to reiterate, what are some reasons to become vegetarian? Uh, what meal would you miss most? And let's see, have you ever considered becoming a vegetarian? So, speaking from personal experience, I never have. I never have really thought about that. But many people do decide to abstain from like all these meat products. So there must be some reason to do that, right? Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can move this camera a little bit. I want to sort of be in the center of the screen. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So Luna here is saying that once you were a vegetarian in the 7th grade for about 2 years. Okay, so you saw the process of manufacturing ham and you just couldn't eat it. So I'm going to venture a guess here and say that the process was disgusting, right? If you want, tell us about it. Maybe I don't want to eat ham anymore either. Mm-hmm. Oh, so Frenchie says, I try not to be a vegetarian, but I try to eat. Oh, okay. So although you're not a vegetarian, you do try to eat healthy, eat vegetable products, right? So that's good. For some people, striking the balance might be the way to go. At least that's the approach that I'm taking. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you would miss carbs. Yeah, bread, meat. That's all good stuff. Oh, so you had to stop being a vegetarian because you like cheeseburgers too much. I got it. Oh, that's interesting. N. I'll just call you N. So you used to be a vegetarian, but not now. Okay. Yeah, Steve Jobs, I guess, was a vegetarian. Also, Albert Einstein was a vegetarian. Did you guys know that? But it wasn't really for ethical reasons. You see, Albert Einstein was directed to avoid meat products from his doctor, right? So it was for medical reasons. But yeah. Yeah, and you never thought about it, right? Hyunsuk, never. I can never be a vegetarian. You're right, Frenchie. Protein is a big one. We get lots of good protein and nutrients from those meat products, don't we? Yeah. Guys, this is great. Okay, so I think we've warmed up on the topic. Let's move on to the next part. And of course, if you have more comments, please feel free to keep leaving them. I'll try to get to them eventually. Okay, so yeah, we talked about the difference between a vegan and a vegetarian. So the vegan is more extreme. They don't eat any meat products, even dairy. Okay, so these are some of my answers. What are some reasons to become a vegetarian? And I looked online. Supposedly, of course, this is what the internet tells me. It reduces heart disease. That's good. Cancer prevention. Yeah, so there are several studies that actually show a link between red meat and cancer. So if you eat lots of red meat, like beef and pork, you're actually more likely to get colon cancer, the cancer of the colon. Scary, scary stuff. Lose excess weight. What can I say? If you become a vegetarian, you will probably lose weight. Live longer. Slow the aging process. We're always trying to slow the aging process, but we can't really do it, can we? But it's always, I guess some people like to try. Avoid toxic food contaminants. So, sure, I guess if animals eat toxic products, that's in their flesh. So, if we consume the toxic products from the animals, it can be bad for us as well. Reduce global warming, perhaps? Perhaps? Okay, economic sense. Well, we'll see about that. World hunger? Well, these are some high claims. Okay, so what meal would you miss most if you became a vegetarian? Well, as for me, pizza. Pizza's one of my favorites. I love pizza, steak, chicken. I think we can all agree that we would be we would be missing out. Oh my goodness, this makes me hungry. I'm hungry now. Have you ever considered becoming a vegetarian? Nope, never have. But I have considered reducing the amount of unhealthy animal products I eat. Yeah. So, like we saw before, I want to avoid cancer and I don't want to gain too much weight, so that may be an option. Finally, are there any proven benefits of eating meat? Well, I looked online and actually there are. Yeah. So some research has proven that it reduces appetite and increases metabolism. So we've all heard of diets like the Atkins diet and the what I'm sure there are some other meat-based diets, and evidently that actually helps people lose weight. Retention of muscle mass. Yeah, so common wisdom, if you eat animal protein, a lot of good beef, you can retain muscle mass more easily. Stronger bones. Okay, some studies correlate animal protein to stronger bones. Better iron absorption. So, in summary, meat does have its benefits as well as drawbacks. I think we can all agree on that. Okay. All right, so without further ado, let's move on to the topic. And of course, guys, as I'm reading the letter, feel free to continue to comment, and I will try to get to your comments as soon as possible. Okay? All right. Dear Professor Noland, I am a little concerned about my wife and children. For the last few years, my wife has decided that a purely vegetarian diet is an ethical and healthy lifestyle choice. But I am not entirely convinced. Humans have evolved for millions of years eating meat. In modern times, humans are taller and stronger than they were 200 years ago, partly because of our improved diet. My children are still young. I'm afraid the diet my wife has imposed upon them will stop them from growing tall as they possibly can. As you know, height is an important thing in this society. On average, taller people are considered more attractive than shorter people. Isn't that right? Anyway, my kids are already on the shorter side compared to their peers. The vegetarian diet is not helping. As a father, I just want the best for my children. Okay, reasonable. I tried to talk to my wife about my concerns, but I wasn't able to change her mind. She asked me how I can eat cows and pigs and chickens. They are valuable creatures just like humans are, with their own thoughts and feelings. They also have the right to live in peace. Okay, I have to admit she makes some good points. I had a dog growing up. He was my best friend. Why do we arbitrarily set aside animals like dogs and cats as our special friends, but other animals like cows and pigs are considered nothing more than food? I cannot deny that we have a double standard. Double standard. Really good word to know. We'll come back to that later. Anyway, none of that matters, does it? These are my kids we're talking about. Do you think I am right to be concerned? Or am I just overreacting? I look forward to hearing what your viewers have to say about this. Thanks in advance. Okay, guys, so that was a letter for today. Think about how you would respond. So, what advice would you give this person? What do you think about his wife's decision to put the kids on a vegetarian diet? Think about it. Please feel free to leave your comments in the comment section in the YouTube chat tab. No problem. I will get to it later, okay? So you can think about it, answer, and we will talk about it. But first of all, I want to analyze the letter because it contains several English expressions that you may find useful. So we'll just talk about 5 today. Not that many, please bear with me. 5 English expressions that native speakers use a lot. Okay? Starting with impose. Impose on. Impose upon. Okay. This means to force someone to accept, it means to force something unwelcome or unfamiliar on someone. For example, the writer says, I am afraid the diet my wife has imposed upon them will stop them from growing tall. Okay? So this means the diet my wife has forced upon them. Okay? Force them to accept. Impose. All right, let's get some practice. We have a sentence here. Can you change the underlined word so that the sentence sounds more natural, more sophisticated? The government has forced new quarantine requirements for people entering the country. Okay? What do you think? 3, 2. The government has imposed new quarantine requirements. It means the same thing, but imposed sounds more official. The judge forced a heavy penalty on him. Okay? What's another way we can say this? The judge imposed a heavy penalty on him. Okay? Sounds more official. On average. Okay. So, on average, taller people are considered more attractive. Is this true? Well, it's debatable. Okay. On average just means the usual amount of something. Or usually. On average. Okay? How can we change this sentence? Usually, the engine does 4,000 revs per minute. Okay? So we can say, on average, the engine does 4,000 revs. Typically, he watches 3 movies a week. Alrighty? So we can say, on average, he watches 3 movies a week. So just something to keep in mind. Very common. Native speakers use this all the time. Good to know. On the shorter side. On the shorter side means, you can probably guess this intuitively, shorter than average. Anyway, my kids are already on the shorter side compared to their peers. Shorter side. So this is kind of a euphemism. All right. So you won't have much time, so make sure your speech is a little short. How can we say this so it sounds smoother? So make sure your speech is on the shorter side. Okay? We can also use this with heavier side. I'm a little worried about my cat. He is fat. So how else can you say this so it's less abrupt? He is on the heavier side. Okay? So this means somewhat heavy. We're being intentionally vague to be more polite. He is a bit on the heavier side. If you want to be more polite, you can add a bit. Generally in English, the less direct you are, the more polite you are. Arbitrarily. This means on the basis of random choice, personal whim, rather than reason. So the writer makes a good point here. Why do we arbitrarily set aside animals like dogs and cats as our special friends, but other animals like cows and pigs are considered food? Guys, what do you think? Is it arbitrary? Is it an arbitrary distinction? Arbitrary. Arbitrarily. Okay, so we have an example here. We didn't make these decisions randomly, but for good reason. Okay? How can we say this so it sounds more professional? We didn't make these decisions arbitrarily, but for good reason. The garden isn't planned at all. We tend to just plan things here and there as we feel like it. Okay? We tend to plan things based on our personal whim. Okay, another way we can say this is just plan things in an arbitrary way. Arbitrary. Okay, guys, last one, and I think this is the most interesting one. Double standard. Double standard, a rule or principle which is unfairly applied in different ways to different people or groups. So, the writer says it's a double standard. Why do we treat dogs and cats this way, but we treat cows and pigs like food? And that's a good point. I heard that pigs are actually as intelligent as dogs are. Pigs and cows are. So, some good points here. Double standard, this is a word, an expression we hear all the time in English. In what areas of life can we find a double standard? So many. I thought I can share some memes here. Oh, Helen, you can't go on the beach like that. It's obscene. Well, guys, do you see the double standard here? Because men can go outside without a shirt, but women can't. Double standard. All right? So, yeah, when two men are having an argument, we can call that a heated discussion. There's something dignified with that. A heated discussion. We are recognizing that both sides have something important to say. However, oftentimes when women have an argument, we would call it something like a catfight, which is kind of derogatory. Derogatory means it shows disrespect. Why? Well, catfight normally just applies to women. And it shows disrespect because you're sort of relating humans to animals. Obviously cats are less sophisticated than human beings. So it's sort of a way of showing disrespect. But double standard, we have a situation where men are doing the same thing, but we are affording them more respect, basically. Double standard. All right. What kind of double standard do we see here? All right. So both men say exactly the same thing, but they elicit a different response, don't they? Okay? Double standard. And it's one of those facts of life. If you're attractive enough, you can get away with more. Or at least this is what the comic is trying to say. What do you guys think? Do you agree, disagree? Is there a double standard? Well, feel free to answer in the comment section. All right. So, a double standard. What type of double standard do we see here? Okay, so we see the man surrounded by women. He's cool, but oh no, shame on her. She's doing something wrong. So, yeah, usually with these double standards, we're talking about difference between the genders, between men and women, because that's one of the most common double standards that have come into the spotlight these days, especially with like the Me Too movement and all that. All right, double standard. Oh, I love so the woman on top. She's cute, she's thin, and she says, "I love food," and people will respond like, "Oh, you're so cool. That's cute." Okay, maybe she posts that as her Instagram photo. However, if the woman is overweight, we get a very different response, don't we? I love food. Gross. You eat like a pig. Oh my goodness. But really, what do you think? Is there a double standard between people who are slimmer and people who are thicker? Let me know what you think. All right. Oh, this is my favorite one. This is my favorite. What if all the male characters posed like the female one? Okay, what's the female one? The female one is here. Okay, so what can we notice about her? The picture is emphasizing her, basically her body characteristics. So what if the male characters pose like this? Well, it probably looks something like this. Yeah. So guys, what do you think? Is there a double standard for how we depict women and men in the media? I think there is. So, you know what? I think this topic is actually so interesting that I want to ask you right now. Can you think of more double standards in our daily life? Can you think of more? Please. I want to hear what you have to say. All right. So we're back. Let's see if there's been any comments. Right. Okay. Looks like we got quite a few. Guys, I think it's great that you're having a discussion. Yeah. On the merits of eating healthy food, no less. And you want to work out, but you can't miss this class. Thank you for that. Right, so Bay Frenchie makes a good point. Nowadays, there's a lot of men who can cook, so a lot of these double standards are starting to lose their meaning. Good point. Things are changing. Hmm. Yeah. I think we are getting used to it. Yeah, there are so many, aren't there? Oh, yeah. So I like what this commenter says here. We're worrying about screen addiction. We tell our children not to watch too much TV, too much YouTube, not to use the phone too much. But adults do that, don't they? As adults, we are addicted to the screen. But we tell our children, no, don't do that. You should study. Kind of a double standard. Hmm. Okay, So, Frenchie, you said, what is the relation between being quiet and handsome? No, no. I think that the meme you're referring to, they were they were comparing uh, an attractive person versus an unattractive person, the different response that they get from the opposite sex. So, yeah, maybe if you want to explain more about what you mean, it's yeah, these double standards are great to talk about. Yeah. Joyce, thank you for that. Yeah, so jobs are based on gender. So what jobs are usually for women? Usually nurses, secretaries. I don't know, but teachers. Yeah, teaching was originally a female-dominated career, wasn't it? Yeah. It's great, guys. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. So, all right, guys. I'm going to do something different. We have here this letter, okay? And I want you to think about the questions in red. What advice would you give this person? Second question, what do you think about his wife's decision to put the kids on a vegetarian diet? Third question, do you think it is ethical to eat animals? Okay, there's a lot of questions here. Fourth question, the writer of the letter thinks that height is important. Do you agree? Okay, so we have a huge letter here and there are so many different questions to consider. This time I want to give you guys ample time to answer the question. So what I'm going to do is set a timer, and during that time we're going to have a conversation. So I will reply verbally and reply in the chat box to your comments. But this is basically to give you some time to tackle these questions and to think about what the letter is saying. So I'll start that here. Okay, hopefully you can see that counting down. Let's think about this letter. What advice would you give this person? In the meantime, I will continue to check the comment section. Okay, I just realized the timer doesn't work, so I'll just give you guys 3 minutes, okay? I'll let you know when to stop, excuse me. All right, guys, just a heads up, 2 more minutes. Okay, then we'll talk together. All right, guys, there are some good comments here. You guys are really getting into it. Thanks a lot. So, right, I think there's at least one person who's angry because why aren't these kids being taken to the doctor, right? Um, Perhaps the father should get somebody's medical opinion about the diet that their children are being forced to adhere to. So some really good points here. Thanks a lot. Yeah. One person makes a good point. Height is 70, maybe 80% genetic. So it could be related to diet. I do agree with that. Yeah. One thing I noticed when I visited Japan is that most of the people are generally smaller and shorter than the Korean people are. And I just wonder if that has something to do with the diet because you guys you guys eat a lot of meat, to be honest. I think so. Yeah, so one commenter says I can't agree with the wife's opinion, cannot agree with the wife's opinion, and I think a lot of people feel this way. That's the reason why I was so stunned when I heard this story. Uh, the father, the father keeps eating. He eats all the meat he wants. You know, he tells the wife, "You can't control me. I'll do what I want." But the wife is able to control what the children do. So the children, they're all following this lifestyle. Okay. So Anne, I liked your previous comment. You chose the wrong wife. That's you're always so practical. Yeah. So that's a good point. The husband should approach a doctor. Have the children taken to a doctor to get a second opinion. I think that's the consensus here. And very good. So last question on this part that I want to ask you guys is, there's the issue that the wife brings up. Is it ethical to consume animals? We all do it. How do we justify that? How do we rationalize it in our head? Personally, I just don't think about it. I I don't know. It's almost like, as a society, we just consider animals as just a resource. Hmm. Oh, that's interesting. So this commenter, I can't really pronounce your name, but you live as a selective vegetarian, which means you feed meat, animal products to your sons, so you have a double standard. And yeah, isn't that good? Let them grow up, let them get bigger, and then when they get older, try to transition them into. I mean, they'll be adults. It has to be their decision. But at that point, at least they're done growing, so they won't have their growth stunted. Yeah, very good points. Thanks for that. Good, good. So let's see if there's something else. Okay. So the next question is, we saw here a disagreement between the wife and the husband regarding how to feed the children, what kind of diet they should have. Next question, what are some other disagreements that are very common when two people are raising children? So I'm going to type the question in the chat box here. Oh, wrong one. So the question is, what are some common disagreements that people have when it comes to raising children? So aside from diet, there must be some other, you know, conflicting things. Yeah, it's for sure the red meat business. It's a huge, there's a lot of money there, so it's a very complicated problem. It's one of those things, unless you take away the money, it's hard to solve it. Yeah, so I sort of like what Bay Frenchy says here. Humans consider everything, so everything from their perspective. I think that we think that animals exist for us. Okay, they're a resource for us to exploit. And I think that's the way it is, right? I think animals are a resource. That's how I think of them. And is it ethical? Well, everybody has a different opinion about right and wrong, don't they? Yeah. From the animal point of view, human beings are the biggest enemy. Oh, Joyce and Luna, thank you for that education. Yeah, so many times parents may disagree with education. Can you tell me some examples of how parents might disagree regarding their child's education? Like perhaps what kind of academies they should go to? Should they go to a public or private school? Something like that. Okay, so the commenter here says, my friend has a son who moved from Shindorim to Bundang. Ah, Bundang to, okay, different place. Her son hates it. Okay, so moving for the kids may cause some disagreements in the family. Kids have their own friends, so if they move, they will not appreciate that so much often. A good point. Maybe someday in the future, artificial meat will solve the problem. Who knows? Yeah, Joyce, I think you make a good point. The family has a finite amount of money, and of course, because we love our children, a lot of this money has to be invested in our children. But perhaps the the parents can disagree regarding how the money is spent, how much money should go to the child's education, and what kind of education should be focused on. Yeah. Mm. So, oh right. So there's a problem with one of your parent with one of your friends' uh, son. So they brought the son different tutors to teach, but the son was not interested. Oh, very frustrating. No enthusiasm for education. That could be a disappointment to any parent, I think. Sure, it depends on kids. Just like adults, each kid is different. So true. All right, so let's move over another question. So we're talking about kids, right? I want to ask you this. We all had parents. What are some things your parents did when they raised you that you would do differently if you had your own kids? Okay? We always think, oh, if only my mom and dad would have done this, I would be in a better situation. Maybe not everyone thinks this way, but sometimes I think that way. So there are some things that you would do differently. And no doubt there could be a generation difference. For example, the old generation employed corporal punishment far more often than today's parents do. Okay? So corporal punishment means physical discipline, spanking, like that. But nowadays, we don't see that as often. Some people argue that it makes our children more spoiled, but other people think that it's good because, it could cause some psychological issues. Something like that. Oh, Luna, you're very happy with the way your parents raised you. Good for you. Yeah. Okay, one commenter here says, I want to give my kids more chances to find what they like and do well. Okay, so yeah, I've heard that. Some people think that they didn't have enough free choice when they were moving through the education system. It's just take these classes, get good grades. They don't get to pursue their passion, their hobby. And I've heard this story a lot in South Korea because the parents here are really focused on those test scores. I had a different experience when I was growing up. Uh, I think I actually had too much freedom. My parents would say things like, "Oh, Branden, do whatever you want, whatever makes you happy. You can be successful, you can be anything." But no, I can't. I can't be anything. So, because everybody has their limits. So, I don't have kids, but if I did, I would take a more balanced approach. Let them have freedom to explore things they may be interested in, but also make it clear that you expect them to do well in school. So, in the end, I think I did okay. My parents were lovely people. But there has to be a balance there, I think. Oh, so your parents didn't give you pocket money. Okay. Do you give your kids pocket money? Oh, okay. This is an interesting comment. So, Frenchie, you say that you would raise your kids to be more independent. You feel that your parents, they helped you too much. They didn't do enough to foster your independent spirit. Is that what you mean? Let me know if that's what you mean. Give children a chance to select what they study. Good. Good, yeah. So generally what I'm seeing here is that the new generation, us, we give our students, our children more freedom than our parents gave us. Yeah. Good points, guys. All right, which brings us to the next question. We give our students more freedom, our children more freedom, but what happens when they misbehave? Okay? So what is the best way to punish children when they misbehave? I mentioned before that as a society we're sort of moving away from corporal punishment. When I first came to Korea 10 years ago, I actually still saw corporal punishment in the public schools. Sometimes the students would misbehave and the teacher would get the stick and, you know, whack them. But that's all changing, not only in the school system but also in the family. Good. So Luna, you say that you give them freedom, but there are limitations. They have to listen to you. Right. We don't want our kids to be spoiled. So I think there has to be a balance. You're doing well. Yeah, thank you for that comment. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's good you admit it, Bay Frenchie. You were a little spoiled, but your parents backed you up. So, right. When they misbehave, okay, show them that there are consequences of bad behavior. What kind of consequences? Oh, some interesting strategies here. First, I sit down with my child, eye level, and ask them first why they did that, and then give them time to think about their behavior. Right. A lot of times, it helps just to talk about these things with the kids. Hmm. Good, good. Guys, all these topics are so good. We're going to have to stop now because we are just about out of time. I'm going to have to let the next person present. But your comments were fantastic. This is the last YouTube streaming for this semester. So I look forward to perhaps meeting you again next semester. So in the meantime, good luck on your final exams, and I hope you have wonderful summer vacation. Okay. See you guys later. Bye. I got to type correctly. Bye, everyone. See you later. Bye.